Yeah, so I'm Mark, and I've been gardening for 18, 20 years. Moved up to Cherryfield in 2012. Wanted to live off grid. Want to have my own little homestead, raise chickens, have greenhouses, gardens, all that. So I'm still living off grid. I'm still gardening at home. I made my living for most of the time I've lived here as a farmer or gardener. I worked at Beddington Ridge Farm for a number of years. And then 2 years ago, I came to work with Women for Healthy Rural Living to run their Incredible Edible program. My partner, Adam, had been working as their gardener at the Red Barn Motel for the past 4 or 5 years. And then I just came on board 2 years ago. So we garden together now. And I'm going to show you my garden. Just a little bit about Women for Healthy Rural Living. The mission of, we call it WRL, is to advance and promote the health and well-being of the woman, her family, and her community. So we realize that women still make most of the health and nutrition choices, food choices for their families. And that's why a lot of our programs are geared towards women and their families. And we have 4 priority areas. One is food security, which is Incredible Edible Milbridge. That's my program. But also physical activity, our health and wellness programs, forging community connections, and affording access to nature. And there are some flyers and brochures, but there's a schedule over there that you can just see how many programs are happening every day of the week. There's something at WRL. All of our programs are free and open to the public, and there's a lot going on in those 4 areas. So take a look at our catalog and see what we've been up to. So just did you know that Washington County, where we are in Milbridge, so Milbridge is about halfway between Ellsworth and Machias. So if that gives you some form of reference. Have any of you been to the Incredible Edible Gardens or to the Milbridge area? Oh, so a number of you. So Washington County, where we're located, has the highest levels of food insecurity, not just in Maine, but in New England. And this means that many children are not getting 3 meals a day. A lot of older adults are not eating adequate calories, adequately nutritious food. Major problem in Washington County, major problem. We have the highest rates of chronic health issues related to diet. People are not eating well, eating fresh organic produce necessarily, and there's high rates of diabetes, chronic issues, heart disease, all these sorts of things. And Washington County, again, the highest rates in New England for many of these diseases. And we have some of the lowest access to healthy organic produce and the highest prices for healthy organic produce in Maine and in New England. So Incredible Edible is one of our community's responses to this problem. So it's not only meant to address food insecurity, though. We're also trying to create conversations about how we're using our public spaces. There's a lot of these, green spaces in various towns and cities that could be used for various purposes, and we need to be talking about that and talking about things like food production or pollinator gardens or giving people access to the outdoors, and how we can do that as a community. So a big part of our program is trying to just create a conversation about those things. So WRL's been around for 20 years, but Incredible Edible started maybe, I think it was in 2009, I want to say. And our director, Chris Cooney, she had watched a TED Talk about Incredible Edible Todd Morden. And after she watched this, so I recommend that you all go on and watch this and look up Incredible Edible Todd Morden, check out their website because they were the very first. But after she saw that, she said, we're doing this, we have to do this. And it started out with our pocket gardens. So our pocket gardens were partnerships with businesses and little areas in the community where we would set up raised beds. We'd approach people and say, can we put a raised bed? We'll provide a volunteer. We'll send people around to plant them. And so there were about eight to 10 of these around the town of Milbridge. This was how the program started. They were in places such as the Narraguagus Bay Nursing Home, which the residents loved it because they could get out and get their hands in the dirt, smell herbs, taste things, have some fresh produce. The Milbridge residence, which is a sort of assisted living facility, but also places like the post office and just in front of businesses, various businesses. We still have this program, but we've scaled it back and we're focusing now on places that really, instead of these vegetables being out and available to the public, we're kind of hiding our pocket gardens now. We're putting them at the food pantries. We're putting them at the Rayitos del Sol, which is a children's nursery school. We just put in a 20 by 20 garden for them, so the children can come out and play in the garden, work in the garden, harvest vegetables, and it'll provide food for the nursery school. The West Manor Apartments, which is a 55+ community of fixed income, older adults. We've provided gardens for them so they can come out, work in the gardens, have fresh produce. So our pocket gardens have become less public. At first, they were a way for us to bring awareness, to kind of get the idea out there and to get support behind it. It brought in volunteers, it brought in donations, it helped us to kind of grow the project. But now we're trying to focus on having these pocket gardens for very specific locations, whether it's a nursing home, assisted living, those sorts of places. And this one, Rayitos del Sol and Mano, which is a nonprofit that helps the immigrant community. They just contacted us, in April and said, would you be willing to help us with a garden? Yeah, of course. We'll come help you with a garden. So we partnered with Healthy Acadian for a nice little garden and for them, and we'll be back this year to provide plants, to do programming with the children. The children and the families will plant the gardens with us, and we do some various educational programs related to the pocket gardens. So that's how it started. And it gave us volunteers, visibility, donations, and broad community support by putting in these just simple little raised beds. But then in 2012, we were approached by Kristen Navarrete, who runs the Red Barn Motel. And she said, I like what you're doing. I like this program. I have a big green space. I have a big empty lawn. Would you like to put a garden there? So yes, we would. And it's a very beneficial, for them and for us, because we get to expand our mission of really providing food for the community with this large garden. This garden is, I think, 100 by 140, so 14,000 square feet. And it's very traditional. It's long rows. It's a row garden. It's meant to be productive, but also beautiful. And it benefits the motel because the guests get to come and enjoy the view out the back. They get to see the bay and this beautiful garden, and they can come wander through. So it's been a really great partnership. It gave us, greater visibility and greater productivity. A lot of food comes out of this garden. That's Adam. He's our head gardener right there, Adam Lambert. He's the best gardener I know. And he's just chatting with some people in the garden, and you can see the motel up in the back there.
And where does all the produce that's produced in that garden, where does that end up?
Oh, so our model is kind of unique. I don't know of any or many other community gardens that do this. Many community gardens, you either rent a plot and you come and you garden them yourself, or they would donate the food to the food pantry, which sometimes we do if there is a surplus. There is not often a surplus. Ours is free to the public. Pick your own.
Oh my God.
Yes.
It's worth a drive up there.
And it's a challenge, as you can imagine, to allow people to come in, but we encourage people to come in and, because it's a mission. We want them in the garden, getting close to the plants, getting close to the earth, learning where their food comes from, having an experiencing beauty. Gardening is a spiritual experience too, getting in there. And so, we encourage people to, come by and pick enough for a meal or two, not enough for canning and for storage, but to come in and get enough vegetables for a meal or two. And so you see, these are just members of the public who just stop by and they harvest. You see, there's no fence around the garden. People can just come in and do as they will, which it presents a challenge, because there's a lot of people moving through. So succession planting is a major thing. When things start getting picked out, we clean the row out, replant, maybe donate what's left to the food pantry. But there's not often much food left. We use these pick and don't pick signs that you can see. And once things are ready to pick, they go fairly quickly. Early in the season with say radishes, We have like a pinpoint seeder, we can plant like 4 rows of radishes, like nothing. We plant tens of thousands of radishes, but people will not eat tens of thousands of radishes. So we have brought like 5-gallon buckets to the food pantry of radishes. They distribute them. I hope people like radishes. So yeah, usually in the early spring before people are real, because people are used to a summer garden a lot of times. They're not ready, you know, they want tomatoes, things like that, but they don't realize that, oh, there might be spinach and radishes. So we try to make people aware. Yeah.
We did common ground. We had a bunch of radishes and we just roasted them in the oven. And the greens,
takes the heat out. Yeah, the greens, when I first moved here and we had a small garden, we were eating the greens because, you know, we just wanted to maximize. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a bit of a different model. You can see how lush. This is a picture from last year. This year was more of a challenge because of the drought.
And nasturtium blossoms are delicious.
Yeah.
That horseradishy sting to them.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
It's fun when we get the kids in the garden and get them eating flowers. It's fun. They like that. Yeah, so that was our partnership with the Red Barn Motel, but then we wanted to, you know, go bigger, right? So in 2018, we partnered with Maine Coast Heritage Trust to get a second location, which is what became the Milbridge Commons Wellness Park. And you can see this is when we were just starting to lay the groundwork. So that's in 2018. The soil's really thin, heavy, hard clay underneath, needed a lot of groundwork. You can see the beginnings there. This is after the beds were put in. And I like this picture because you can see the shapes. So the other garden's more productive. It's straight lines, it's rows. We're looking to produce. This garden, you know, we're also looking to give people an experience where they can meander through, and you know, it's very beautiful, very beautiful space.
Who did the design?
So it was Janice Lesbines did the original design. Yeah, and we've modified it a bit since then, at least in certain areas, because again, we're trying to increase productivity. And sometimes with the strange shapes, you end up with more path than bed, and we needed to produce more food. So we've straightened some beds. The upper left area is now built more, it looks like an amphitheater. There's a children's pavilion, and you'll see pictures of that, but we've kind of shaped long beds, almost like an auditorium that kind of curve outwards. Because you can see there was a triangle, there was a circle, there was there's all these different shapes. And you just end up with a lot of unused space. So we're still trying to create these curves and these lines, and to create a nice flow where people can move through the garden.
Shape the plant so it saves water.
And we have been reshaping beds because of that, because we did have some runoff issues. These long straight beds, we get water running down, and then this is downhill. So we get all the water from these beds, and this area would end up here and then go down this like flume, and then it would wash out this entire area here. So we've been working on reshaping some of these beds. We're maybe going to shorten some of these beds or create some gaps to kind of work the water flow. Because that's one of the things about this sort of garden is the shapes are beautiful, spirals are beautiful, but for practical purposes, they don't always. Yeah. 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 Yeah, and the original design didn't take that into consideration really. So we've been trying to, over the past couple of years, kind of play around and work with that. And we actually had to put the other location at the Red Barn is really free draining. It's really sandy. Water moves right through it and it dries out really fast. This one, because it's such heavy clay, and then we added so much organic matter, it can get soupy. Early in the spring this year, it was a wet spring. It got soupy. And we had a really rainy year, 2 years ago, and things were rotting. So we ended up adding drainage, and I wonder if you can see that in this picture here. Yeah, you can see we had some groundwork done. So we could, because water was just pooling up in this area and it would flow down here and it would pool up in this corner. And then it would get trapped in the spiral. So we had to add some pipes and some things so water can move out of the spiral and kind of drain out into, there's a wetland down in this area. So we kind of redirected some of that water.
How long did it take you to develop the soil? Because let's, when we first came to Maine, over 40 years ago, I moved my dirt to the house that we're in now because it took me so long to build up good dirt in my beds that I wasn't gonna leave it behind. And, I think that's a real challenge because so much of, Maine is on granite dome, at least along the coast, and the soil is very thin.
Yeah, and it's very thin here, and what they did was brought in a lot of peat moss.
Yeah.
Dump truck after dump truck of peat moss. And now we've been trying to bring the soil into balance. There's an excess of organic matter, which sounds strange, but the ideal is like 8 to 10%, and we're close to 30%. Too much peat moss. And then there was too much amending early on, and it brought the soil out of balance. So we're trying to bring the pH down and try to actually leach out some of the nutrients. There's too much of some nutrients. And it's actually, over the past few years, we've gradually been trying to bring it back into balance through amending, and it's improving. It's improving.
And what's going on with all little kiosks and so forth?
So this photo is about, this was taken during the Butterfly Festival. And I like this picture because you can kind of see this. This is a very recent picture. You can see we have a 1/4 mile walking track. We have 2 pollinator gardens, a perennial pollinator garden and our annual pollinator garden. And then there's the 2 green canopies you see. Those are shade structures because we planted shade trees, but it's going to take years for those shade trees to provide shade. So we did some canopies. There's a children's playground area there.
What a location.
And yeah, and you can see the bay right out there. And what's happening is the Butterfly Festival, which I'll talk about shortly. But it's kind of an annual event that we do to bring awareness to the monarch butterflies, the plight of the monarchs. And yeah, we'll show you some photos of that. And this garden is it's approximately 19,000 square feet. So altogether between this garden and the other garden, it's about close to 3/4 of an acre. Yeah. And it's estimated that we're getting, I think it's 30,000 vegetables for 30,000 meals out of the garden every year. I think maybe 10,000 pounds with all of the gardens, the pocket gardens, and some of the other initiatives we have going on.
Do you guys work with the cooperative extension in your area?
We have on and off in the past. One thing we do is there's the Master Gardener program, which is through UMaine, and some of our volunteers are Master Gardener volunteers. So that's kind of a connection we have with them. They have done workshops with us in the past, the cooperative extension, but it's been a couple of years.
Because one of the things I noticed, my mother didn't can, but my grandmother did, but nobody taught me. But my mother-in-law taught me how to can. And so for years, I don't do much anymore, but for years I did a lot of canning. And the people, young people that I meet now don't know how to do it because their parents didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so it seems like so overwhelming, pressure cookers and jars and sterilizing, but it's really so simple. It's so simple.
You don't need anything except big pots.
Yeah, I mean, stuff to put your goods in.
Well, and beyond canning, we do workshops too, and we'll get to that. But some of the things, like this year, we're going to be doing a workshop on preserving food without canning. Because canning is energy intensive, uses a lot of gas. It does cost a considerable amount of money to can food. So we're going to do drying, freezing, and fermenting. which we did do some fermenting classes this past year as well, where people learn the brine method, the kraut method, and learn to put food by in the old way. So we're trying to teach people these skills and get that information out there, definitely. There's been, there's a lot of challenges with the growth because now this has become a destination. There's a lot of traffic comes through Milbridge Commons and through the Red Barn now, increased amount of picking. And now we're concerned with, further food security challenges, loss of federal funds and SNAP benefits and all these sorts of things that in the years to come, the pressure is really going to be on us to produce more food. So we're trying to come up with some new initiatives and we're talking about that. And we're going to have a meeting in a few weeks to plan the next couple years.
Do you try to do the back yards or their driveways?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have,
Had public gardens with just the ladders behind it, you can, or you got everything go up on just a hundred, ladders that you get from the hardware, store, and the buckets along there, 5 gallon buckets.
yeah, we have a lot going on to try to bring that knowledge to people, workshops, and also providing the resources so people have seeds and things for them to do that. So we're trying to, it's not just that we're going to provide food for people. We're trying to make people more self-reliant and more able to do these things for themselves, for sure.
You do develop forest water troughs now. I was just down there recently in Massachusetts, you had like 4 or 5 old water troughs growing vegetables.
Yeah. Bathtubs, toilets, I've seen it all. Yeah. Oh, and I'll just show you that this is our pollinator garden. We're hoping to be able to get some funds to do some further groundwork. We want to sort of bring these two gardens together next year and then expand the perennial borders. I'm really into the idea, we talk about pollinator gardens, but I'm thinking about insectary gardens. I want to do it not because they provide a service, but because I want to serve life and I want to help and I want to create space and habitat for snakes and amphibians and different creatures and all the insects, not just those that are going to pollinate, but there's predatory insects or just beautiful insects. And I want to give them places to overwinter. I want to give them places to find food and forage to lay their eggs, and all those sorts of things. So I'm doing a lot of planning right now to kind of expand and create a true insectary garden in this whole zone here and along the border of the garden. So that's going to be a major project for the next couple of years. Is not just serving people, but trying to serve life and heal the earth, heal the soil, serve creatures.
Vernal pools.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, I know, and people don't. I've been resisting cutting things down, and like everybody wants to cut the perennials right to the ground, but there's still so much seed out there, and there's stalks, and there's insects overwintering in the stalks. So I'm like a messy gardener. I don't like to pull things out. I want to leave roots in the ground at the end of the season because that's all the soil invertebrates, the worms and all the other creatures, they're overwintering in the roots. So I don't like to go through and pull out plants. I might cut the tops off some things. But yeah, it's tough. There's tough decisions to make because we have to mow the meadow. When do you mow a meadow? It's difficult. Do you do it after creatures are waking up, or if you wait too long, now they're overwintering in the stems. So how can you do the least damage? And a lot of calls you have to make. Gardening and agriculture is inherently a violent activity. So anything we can do to kind of minimize that and to help other creatures, I think is worthwhile. Just a few lovely pictures. You can see the children's pavilion in the distance there, and that's the annual pollinator garden on the right.
So Mark, you got a call from a private business and then from the land trust.
That was for the Red Barn Motel. They're a private
Okay.
business. They
So
reached out to
that was-
us.
Yeah, in Milbridge to encourage this.
They gave them this land.
No, that was that.
This was acquired by Maine Coast Heritage and Women for Healthy Rural Living. The town has actually not supported us. There's no taxpayer support. Everything is through volunteers, donations, and whatever grants we can get. Yeah, and other than the townsfolk support us, but as far as the town and the taxes and that, people often think, they say, isn't it wonderful that the town of Milbridge does this?
Don't.
And we say, oh, they don't.
Partnership with
Yeah,
like the town select people and that it became a priority for, since the community is the group that's being served by this.
Yeah.
It would be nice if the town government was part of that.
yeah. Yeah, sure. And it has become, people say, like, this is the heart of the town, because Milbridge, there wasn't much happening in Milbridge, and now we've given the people a place for things to happen. There's a public space, a commons for people to
So
come.
beautiful.
And yeah, it's so much, and it's so much more than food security. And when I have conversations with people, it means so much and so many different things to so many people to be able to come to a space like this. And there's some of the, that's Ocean and Remy helping us harvest potatoes over there on one of our volunteer days. And we had a mud kitchen in the garden, but a mud kitchen in the garden is not a good idea because you end up with carrots all over the place, radishes all over the place. So we moved it to the playground, but this was the children's gardening area. And you can see the pavilion again. I think there's a better picture of there's the spiral. People love the spiral. The thing about spirals, people don't walk the spiral, they step over the spiral. I should grow taller plants in the spiral. And so, yeah, oh, another picture of our pollinator garden. And then that's our pavilion. And so what we've done now, because we do like story time for the children there, we've had, what were we calling it? Sort of open mic event, acoustic cafe. We were doing that over there for a while. And we shaped the beds around that pavilion to kind of form an auditorium feel and to give a seating area so people could sit on the ground or bring chairs and sit in front of that little pavilion. But it's also a nice place just to have lunch. Our friend Aaron built it and he made a green living roof on top. Yeah, so that year we planted oats. This year we planted alyssum and calendula and dragonhead and verbena and all the stuff. It was one of the busiest pollinator spots in the whole garden. The challenge with it is you have to keep it watered. It's tough to keep it watered, or at least it was this year. But we ran some tubes up there, and yeah, but it's a fun little feature. So there's me and there's Adam, and we're the two gardeners, and then we have volunteers. So we have between 4 and 6 volunteers that come to each garden. On Tuesdays, we have one group that comes to the Red Barn. They might hang out for 3 or 4 hours. On Wednesdays, they come to the Commons. And there's some of our superstar master gardener volunteers, Levon and David. And Milbridge has a large population of retired people. So they're looking for ways to connect with people. They're looking for something to do, a way to be, to do something valuable and helpful for the community. And a lot of these folks have made really strong friendships. They hang out outside of this. We've made a lot of friends through our volunteers. There's folks at the Red Barn. So this is one of the most fun things that we do is our all school planting day and our all school harvest day. And we also do seeding reading at the Milbridge Elementary School. So every month we go and we read them stories about gardening or some kind of nature plant themed story. We do gardening activities with them. And then they all come for all school planting day right before Memorial Day. They come and we do a little garden tour. We taste what's ready, which is usually like lettuce, spinach, a few things like that. And then they help us plant. So they usually, it's pre-K through 6th grade, and they come in teams. And we do potatoes, we do green beans, and we do pumpkins. And so they're planting pumpkins here. And it's great because this year we had the school team up the littles, the real littles, with the older kids. So it might be like, you know, kindergarten with the sixth graders. And the older kids have been doing this now for so long and coming back each year that they're teaching the, I was like crying because these older kids are explaining to the little kids, oh, you have to be gentle with the roots and this is how you do this. And you know, we dig the hole, and they were helping them do that. So it's like, it's really nice to see that it's working and that these kids are learning about this and caring about it, and that their parents, you know, we ask them, do you come in the summer? You know, because once school's out, we don't know what's happening. So we do this with them right before summer vacation. But I'd say, you know, half of the kids at least say that their parents bring them to the gardens throughout the summer. So they're getting to know us, they're getting to know about gardening, they're getting to know the space, and they can watch their plant grow. And that's why I love All School Harvest Day, because kids love carrots.
Carrots are the best.
Oh
kids,
my God.
just like little teeny seed and these great big carrots, they love that.
It was wild. So we would have them come back and do their pumpkins, but we didn't do like a comprehensive harvest day. And so we started doing that and letting kids collect stuff to bring home or back to school with them. And they loved picking carrots. I think anything that you pull out of the ground where you don't know, you can't see it until you pull, is like,
Potatoes.
yeah,
Oh. What's that? Potato.
yeah.
Years. And I just remember bringing my grandkids there and digging potatoes, and they're like,
It's like Christmas morning. Yeah.
It's like stealing eggs from chickens.
Yeah. And the pumpkins. So we plant pumpkins with pre-K and K, and then by the time they come back in the fall, it's K in first grade. So we have them back to pick their pumpkins, and we do a whole garden tour with them. And then the pumpkins are the last thing that they see. And it's always like, these are pumpkins, you know? And this year, because of the drought and because of deer, we did not have enough pumpkins for all the kids. So we went out and we bought pumpkins. And we placed some additional pumpkins under the bushes. And we thought we had peeled all the stickers off of them from the store. Well, one pumpkin still had a sticker, and the kid picked up his pumpkin. He goes, wow, and this one grew with a sticker on it. So it was all good. You may grow up thinking that pumpkins grow with stickers on them, though. But yeah, it's very rewarding to see how excited the kids get about their pumpkins and what they've done.
you'll have to have a garden.
Try and grow a giant pumpkin.
Huh?
Try and grow a giant.
Do a giant one? We could, yeah.
It's a lot of water.
You know, that's not a bad idea. And then we could donate it to the school and they could keep it at the school. Yeah, I like that idea. The trick is when they have to carry the pumpkins back to the school with them. We try to grow varieties that are small enough, because one year we grew pumpkins this big, and you know, little girls walking back to the school with these giant pumpkins. Creates a whole situation. Another event that we do is the Butterfly Festival. So you can see the story time at the pavilion there, and they're reading, it's like The Very Hungry Caterpillar with the kids. And that's Christina Gans dressed up like a monarch butterfly here. And she works in our greenhouse and she helps out with the starts, but she also runs a monarch hatchery, which is not connected to World, but she comes and does our butterfly festival. And the kids can come and they learn about the life cycle of the monarch, the plight of the monarch, and then they can see them in all the different stages of growth. And then they get to release the butterflies with Christina, and they sing happy birthday to them as they release these freshly emerged butterflies. So this has become a really big event for us each year. We also do, during this, we do a milkweed sale, because as you know, swamp milkweed, common milkweed, any kind of milkweed really is the primary food source of monarch butterflies. So last year we sold 100 plants. They sold out in less than 24 hours. So this year I think we're doing 200, and then we're going to do additional, and we're going to try to naturalize swamp milkweed into the meadow at the commons. And you can see here, we do all the kids dress up like butterflies. We have various activities. That's what was going on in all those tents is different crafts and activities for the kids. And they make their wings, they make their little antennas, and then we have a parade around the park.
Out of our way, common on fair, and make extra costs that, that kids' garden projects or food, you know, co-ops could borrow or classes could borrow to have mini parades.
Yeah.
Dressing.
I didn't bring that picture, but from seating reading, we bought costumes last year, and we have a carrot costume and a pea costume. And me and Lizzie, who works with me, we go to the elementary school dressed as vegetables, which I think the adults like that more than the kids. Do you? Oh. I'll have to, yeah, reach out to me, or I'll reach out to you. Because we have a sewing group that we're all too. So I talked a little bit about workshops. When I came on board, we did like 4 or 5 workshops a year, very much geared towards gardening, basic skills, composting, seed starting, those sorts of things. And we still do those types of workshops. But we've kind of expanded what we think of as incredible edible to also include things like foraging, medicinals, because we grow a lot of medicinals in the garden too. And children's programs, more children's programs in our workshops. So this is, for example, we did our first mushroom foraging workshop with Steve Hartley, who's one of our local experts, and is very popular. People love mushrooms. We're hoping to do maybe a mushroom growing workshop this year. I'm trying to expand the offerings beyond the basics.
Thanks. Like to teach that.
Such as?
Well, people are using mushroom seed instead of plastic. Making structures like you build a mold.
Oh, yeah.
Put in the stuff that the mushroom makes to grow. It creates a whole mass.
Like packaged materials.
Yeah. I think I've heard, yeah, I think I've seen it.
It's a guy on TV who vlogs mushroom coffee.
The coffee. My mother's into that. Yeah. Yep. That's become a big thing too. Yeah. I'm thinking we might do like wine cap stropharia this year, because it's real simple in the garden. You mix it with your mulch and spread it under your plants. It's a good way to have a nice edible mushroom that's really easy to grow. But we've also talked about maybe doing a shiitake workshop and inoculating some logs, keeping some at.
That's easy.
Yeah, shiitakes, oyster mushrooms. Yeah. And we've also, we're doing medicinals now. This is community herbalist Jen May doing it. We do have an herb garden as part of the in the Milbridge Commons. And so she came and she did a tea workshop, how to make various teas, and people got to make their own blends in the garden. This year we grow a lot of calendula. And so she did making balms and salves with calendula. And so people got to come and do that and leave with some product. I'm really into plant folklore and folklore, the folklore of plants. So that on the right is, I taught a folklore class over the winter because I wanted to have some winter offerings too. So, we'll start in January with winter sowing. And then in February, I did a folklore class just to get people thinking about the garden and thinking about plants, even in the depths of winter. And I made everybody do a tree dance. We did a tree dance together. That's what we're all doing in that picture. Oh, yeah. 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 I like her show. She just published a book too. Yeah. And then we do our annual garlic planting workshop, which is one of our most popular. They love garlic. They want to know how to plant it. So Farmer Dan from Folklore Farm comes each year and he does a garlic planting workshop. So we're trying to go beyond the basics, still doing the basics, but expanding our offerings too to get into the off season. Instead of just going from May or June to October, say, now we're going into the winter and trying to keep people thinking about and learning about the garden, and what they can do all year round. And this year we're going to do a lot of food preservation stuff. That was a big plan of ours. We're doing another fermenting workshop. We're doing that, preserving without canning. We're going to have a hot compost workshop this year, with Brian Stewart. Do cold. That's what I do. Yeah, the easy way. And we talked a little bit about, people learning to use the produce. So Harvest Table is great. This is a great program. It happens once a month where people learn about something that's growing in the garden and what to do with it, how to cook it. And this is all community led, where somebody might want to teach it. Oh, I have this great recipe for beets. Let's do a beet workshop. And it's a bit like, I love it. I started going to this and it's like Iron Chef. Have you ever seen the show Iron Chef? The secret ingredient is, and then we hand out recipes, people form groups, and we have kind of a cook-off, and everybody learns the recipes, and then we get together afterwards and we try everything. So it's just a great way to make connections with people, a great way to learn how to use what is growing in the garden.
Where is this?
This is the Maine Seacoast Mission. So they let us use their Wheeled Bethel Community Center for this event because they have you can see they have a really nice commercial kitchen there. And we have really limited space at our office. That's in Cherryfield. So right down the road from Milbridge. Yep, just a few miles.
Use all that vegetables too that store it and do soups or.
Yeah, and that's what we tend to do in the winter is, okay, now we're into December, January, now we're learning about dried beans, now we're learning about potatoes, root vegetables, all those sorts of things. And we even did, like, I do home milling. I grow some of my own grain at home and I mill and bake my own bread. So I did this past January, I brought the mill in and everybody could take a spin at the wheel, and we ground all our flour, and we made cookies and muffins and various things with the flowers. So getting, whatever's ready and available and seasonal all year round. Yeah, whatever we've preserved and stored away. And then we started doing a family seed library. So you were talking about, making sure people had the resources to grow their own gardens at home. This is one of the ways that we do that, is we provide seeds, pretty much mostly donated seeds, and then any leftover seeds from the prior year's community gardens that's still viable. We package up and we distribute to the community. And we also there's various booklets and resources, planting calendars, planting instructions, all that kind of stuff that we provide as well. And that's a partnership with the Milbridge Public Library that we've been doing for a lending. It's like the one out here. People can come and we just ask that they let us know that they've taken something. So we can kind of keep track of numbers and figure out how much stuff we need to order and what we need to keep the program going. But we keep it up generally from like May to right after the 4th of July, because they need the space in the library for other purposes. But we try to keep it up through most of the gardening season, so people can come and just get with it, whatever they need. And one of our most recent initiatives was rooted in giving, because we're realizing with cuts and benefits, people losing SNAP, all these sorts of changes, that we needed to kind of up our game. And it's difficult to up our production with the limited space we have. So we did a call out. This is kind of like a victory garden program. We called out to people who wanted to volunteer to plant an extra row in their home gardens to be shared with the community. And this was early on in the season, I think. So it looks like we have people were also donating seedlings if they had leftover plants, tomatoes, things like that. we were distributing through this program. And then they would bring produce throughout the growing season and they could leave it on our market cart, which is right outside the garden there. And people can stop and take what they need. And this year we had 12 families, 12 people who volunteered to grow an extra row, and it ended up being 180 pounds of produce. Yeah, and then we're looking, it was kind of a pilot this year to see how it goes. And we're going to try to expand that next year and get more people on board with that program by kind of loosening up some of the rules we had around it. We were really trying to keep track of numbers and figure out what was coming in, what was coming out. I think we're going to loosen up a little bit and just invite the general public to utilize this and just, just help us out. So that's our Rooted in Giving program. So that's Incredible Edible Milbridge. Holy moly. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's more than just the gardens, there's so much. And we hope you'll come visit us. Come drop in. We do all through the summer, the first Wednesday of every month is garden tours. So I'm happy to show you around, but come up anytime.